There were many cars over the course of the 1920s through the 1990s that caught our eye, but we wanted to zone in on the 5 biggest cars that were used by some of the most notorious mobsters of the last century. We look at getaway cars to movie cars, right through to the elite cars that were spotted during the Great Depression. So sit tight, buckle up, and get ready to pull off as we take you cruising back through time and show you the top 5 Mobster Rides. The Ford Model 18 V8 takes center stage here, built between 1932 and 1934. The Model 18 was the world's first accessibly priced V8 and was introduced to Ford back in 1932. It quickly became related to the mafia and bank robbers of the 1930s. The Ford Model 18 was the ultimate in innovation and sported that iconic flathead design along with superior power. This power would often make the Model 18 a great getaway car for the likes of John Dillinger, Babyface Nelson, and Bonnie and Clyde. This car was the ultimate in mafia mobility. Coming in at number 2, the famous Lincoln Continental. The version of the car you're seeing on your screens now was the Mark III 8, and often seen on the streets of New York from 1969 up to 1998. If you're like Carlo Gambino, you like to keep a low profile apart from a flashy CG1 number plate that gave everyone a little shred of evidence he was wealthy and powerful. However, for some mobsters, they say, what's the point of being a successful criminal if you can't flaunt your wealth? This Lincoln lasted 4 decades as a part of the American Mafia, and you could see why just by looking at it. It's menacing, it has prow, and it gets heads turning. The likes of Paul Castellano traveled in Lincoln Continentals, and Richard the Iceman Kuklinski spoke about traveling in one butt naked right after carrying out a hit. There was also the famous 1941 Lincoln Continental, which featured in the film The Godfather, and in a particular scene where Sonny Corleone was hit by the Tommy gun spray at the Jones Beach Causeway toll booth on Long Island. This timeless Lincoln, as some consider it, was a symbol of the mafia, no doubt about it. Moving on to number 3, we have the 1928 Cadillac Town Sedan. The Cadillac Town Sedan sported 90 brake horsepower, which in 1928 was classified as powerful, believe it or not. This car was made most famous by Scarface and Al Capone. Capone's car was heavily customized though, with inch-thick glass and wrapped in steel armor. The car ended up weighing in at 9,000 pounds. Hard to believe it got going at all with that kind of load. Maybe that's why the Caddy was painted in green and black to match the Chicago police cars at the time. It certainly helped blend in. The back window also dropped down in Capone's sedan, which is why I guess it helped his fellow mob passengers stick their guns out of the window and fend off any cars in pursuit. The side windows were also said to contain holes so that his bodyguards could shoot. Nice addition for back then.
Gentlemen, please, I get the idea.
Good.
I'm very sorry.
What do you say?
No.
Rolling in at number 4, we have the Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost. The Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost was manufactured between 1907 and 1926. The Rolls-Royce was a car in a league of its own. Even today, it's a car associated with the wealthy. So back in the early part of the 20th century, you can imagine how much of a big deal this was. This was a luxury car that peaked out in the Prohibition era of America and the Roaring 20s, costing a whopping $14,000 at the time. Just picture the likes of Johnny Torrio, Dutch Schultz, and Arnold Rothstein traveling around town in such a spectacle of a car in the early to mid-20s. Finally, in at number 5 is the British-made Jaguar MK. The Jaguar MK was a series of Jaguar built between 1951 and 1960. The Jag MK was a sporty model. They were very fast, loud, and powerful, kind of like the mobsters of the era. That's why it makes perfect sense that they were the preferred car of choice for British mobsters Ronnie and Reggie Kray during the 50s. They were four-door sedans that mainly rolled off the production line in either black or British racing green, and they were fast to become a part of British underworlds for generations afterward. Other honorable mentions can be thought of when thinking of the top cars that mobsters used. One that comes to mind is the 1929 Buick. The Buick was a four-door sedan and was mainly used as a social commuting car rather than a getaway or luxury car. You would often see these style of cars take people to and from church on Sundays rather than see them as a part of gang warfare on the streets. You also have the Mercedes 260D from 1936, which had a very daunting presence that would make it the perfect mafia car. The car initially rose to fame in Germany, and it was better known as the Deathmobile rather than the first diesel passenger car. It got this name because the SS and Gestapo used them for sinister reasons. Usually when you saw one of these in the area, trouble was not far away. We hope you've enjoyed our top 5 mobster rides. Stay tuned for more mini web series from the nationalcrimesyndicate.com, and make sure to subscribe and like us on Facebook to stay updated for our contests, giveaways, and many more original web series.